Hello and welcome to a new vlog and trip report, and today we are traveling on the Kamp Valley Railway or Kamptalbahn. We are going from Krems to Sigmundsherberg and back, and here on the map you can see our route today, and here we can take a look at our train arriving in Krems. Our train today is a diesel rail car of the class 5047 of the Austrian railway ÖBB. Here we can take a short look at the interior, but this train was pretty crowded in the beginning because there were a lot of school kids on the train, so we will take a closer look later on. We're now going on a short part of the so-called Franz-Josefs-Bahn, the Kremser part of the Franz-Josefs-Bahn, to this station here. This is the station of Hadersdorf am Kamp. And here we are actually reaching the Kamptalbahn. The Kamp, that is a river, and we are now following the Kamp Valley all the way to a city called Rosenburg. From there we are following another river, and then we are going to Horn and Sigmundsherberg. The first bigger city on the railway line is Langenlois. It's a very famous city for winemaking. Many of the best wines of Austria are coming from this city. After that we are continuing to Schönberg am Kamp, where we are crossing the river for the first time. And after that we are crossing the river several times. Meanwhile the tram got pretty empty. We can take a closer look at the interior of this quite historic train. Class 5047 was built between 1987 and 1995. And this here is one of the very few railway lines where there are only trains of this type. So that means that this railway line is not accessible, as there are steps at the entrance of this type of train. So, of course, it is planned to replace those trains in the future. Then we will get battery-powered trains, and that is supposed to start in 2028. Until then, this is one of the last railway lines where you are getting a class 5047 for sure in Austria. As you can see, the landscape is pretty spectacular. This is a very beautiful railway line, even though I was traveling in a less beautiful time in December without snow, unfortunately, so it was kind of gray, but I think you can imagine quite good how nice this railway line looks in summer or in spring or even in autumn or with snow. So I was quite unlucky that it is pretty gray today. The weather was also not nice, but still you can see how beautiful this railway line is, especially because we are crossing the river Kamp multiple times. Many stops on that line are only on request. And then there are very few stops where we have two tracks, and there we are meeting the oncoming trains, like here in this case at the station of Plank am Kamp. Here we can see the oncoming train, and here you can also see that there are two different liveries of the class 5047. In the front is the new one and in the back is the old one. And we are currently traveling with the new train because they also do have different interiors. Later on we will also take an older train, and then we can see the other interior as well. We are still following the river Kamp. Next big stop will be Garz-Thunau. In Garz-Thunau you can see a big castle. It's the Castle Garz with a church right in front of it, and it will come inside in a few seconds. Before that we are crossing the river once again, and now we have the possibility to take another look at the interior of our train, and here we can see the church and the castle on the mountain in Gars Tunau, which is also a bigger station where we are meeting oncoming trains. And the train was very empty now, so we can take another look at the interior of the train, which is quite nice and comfortable. And now we are continuing on to the next important stop at Rosenburg am Kamp. Here in Rosenburg am Kamp we are leaving the Kamp Valley, and we can see another beautiful castle. It is the Castle Rosenburg, the biggest Renaissance castle of Austria, also reachable with the Kamp Valley Railway. Here we can see the castle in the background, and we are also now crossing the river Kamp for the last time. Seconds after we are crossing another river, it's called the River Taffa, and the Taffa is ending here in Rosenburg, joining the Kamp. But we are also just following the Taffa for a few minutes, and then we are leaving the river valleys. We're going through a forest, a bit steeper uphill until we reach a rather flat area on the top of the hill, which is used for agricultural purposes, and therefore it is less spectacular. And right now we are reaching that area. In this area we are now driving for a few minutes until we are reaching the city of Horn. And that's pretty strange because our train ends in Horn, even though Horn is not the end of the line. There are still 2 more stops until we reach Sigmundsherberg, where you have also a connection to another train line. But still, this train ends in Horn, and I have to change trains here. That is quite unusual and strange. And also a bit uncomfortable because sometimes you have to wait quite a while here in Horn. But now we can take a look at the other train arriving and our train leaving the station of Horn. I don't really know why the schedule is like that, because the next train is also a class 5047, so it has nothing to do with electrification or something like that. It's just a strange schedule. So we can take another look in the interior, but you can see it looks exactly the same, as it is exactly the same train. And with this train we're going now 2 stops until Sigmundsherberg, and that is also the end of this train. So this train is just going between Horn and Sigmundsherberg with 1 stop on request in between at Breiteneich by Horn. Quite interesting part about this railway line is that it is quite steep. From Hadersdorf am Kamp until here we gained an altitude of about 100 meters, and now on the short part to Sigmundsherberg we will gain another 100 meters. And now we've left Horn. Next stop on request is Breiteneich by Horn, and then we are having a long turn to the right, going through a forest, gaining some altitude until we reach Sigmundsherberg. And in Sigmundsherberg you have a connection on the so-called Franz-Josefs-Bahn, either to Gmünd or to Vienna. This is a quite important connection, so that's why I don't really understand why the other train was ending in Horn shortly before Sigmundsherberg. There also used to be a connection from Sigmundsherberg onto Zellandorf, but that is not in use anymore. I am staying in the train in Sigmundsherberg taking the same train immediately back to Horn, where I have to change trains again, and then I will continue on back to Krems. As you can see, it is getting dark already, so there was no need to stay in the small town of Sigmundsherberg, and also I had to catch my ship to Vienna, so I didn't want to take any risk and took the same train back to Horn and then on another train to Krems. This last part is not very spectacular, even though it's a bit steeper, there's not too much to see. As you can see, we're mostly going through the forest. Another downside of the changing of trains here is that the train from Horn to Sigmundsherberg is not following a structured schedule, so at some points in Horn you have to wait quite long, and sometimes there is a direct connection. So make sure to check the schedule if you want to see the whole railway line, because sometimes the change in Horn can be quite uncomfortable. And now we're slowly reaching Sigmundsherberg, end of the line and also the end of the Kamp Valley Railway, and the point of return for me, where I will go back to Krems. Here we can see the connection train going on to Gmünd. Gmünd, by the way, is directly at the border with the Czech Republic. Here we can see a freight train also leaving before us, and then it was also time for us to leave Sigmundsherberg again. We are now going back to Horn. As it got more and more dark outside, there will be less footage about the way back to Krems, but I will still show you a bit more about the railway line. Here we are on the flat area, slowly approaching the forest, where we'll be going down back to Horn. There I have to change trains again. We will have the chance to see an older version of the Class 5047. This time I have a direct connection, so I just have to change trains directly, and we can also see that this is now the older version with the old livery and the old interior as well. We're gonna take a look at that. Here you can see an old seat pattern, so it looks even older, and it does have two compartments in the interior, but these are the only differences. Otherwise it's exactly the same train. It also has the same features. It's just an optical difference. Otherwise the same train. Also very comfortable. Only downside for me personally, the headrest is a bit too low, but otherwise it's a very comfortable and cozy train. And now we are going back with another train to Krems, same way as we came, and it was already dark outside, so not too much to see. Here we can take a look at the toilet in the train, which is of course also available. We are now back in Rosenburg, crossing the river Taffa and reaching the river Kamp. On the other side we have the Renaissance Castle again, which is one of the many tourist sites along the Kamp Valley Railway. We also have the castle in Gastunau. Also, Gastunau is quite famous for being a residence to several famous people. For example, the famous Austrian singer Falco had a villa here in Gastunau. And then in Langenlois we have multiple attractions that have something to do with wine, as Langenlois, as I said, is a very famous wine city, so also a very interesting place. Here we are now in Gastunau. Here we can see an oncoming train. Now we are continuing on back to Krems. And here we have yet another oncoming train, and soon after we are reaching Hadersdorf am Kamp, where you have another connection on it to Vienna, but we are staying on a train going to Krems and can listen to the sound of our train once again. And here we are back in Krems. From here I was walking back to the ship, the Riverside Mozart. So you have already seen what's happened after that. Quite strange, it didn't work at all to let passengers leave the train first before boarding the train, which is also common in Austria, but here in this case nobody cared. But still I managed to leave the train because the train is continuing on to St. Pölten. But I wanted to go back, of course, to the Riverside Mozart, and that is the end of this video. I hope it was interesting for you. Here you can see when the next video will be uploaded and the name of the song. As always, I'd like to say thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please consider to comment, like, subscribe or share the video link, and I hope to see you in my next video.